and welcome to the Science Behind the Zoo Licence. This week we're here at Twycross Zoo, and throughout this episode we'll be looking at the current zoo licensing and how Twycross meets these requirements. First is health and safety at Twycross. Many protocols are in place for keeper and public health and safety. Keepers have extra protocols as they have closer contact with animals and therefore a higher risk of harm. The Secretary of State Standards and Modern Zoo Practice, SSS-MZP, states that risk assessments relating to public safety must be undertaken where appropriate, and relevant risk assessments relating to keeper safety must also be completed. This is a sample of a staff risk assessment at Twycross. As stated by BIASA 2011, control of substances hazardous to health (COSH) regulations must be abided by, as keepers come into contact with substances that can create hazard to health. COSH assess risks of exposure to zoonotic agents, preventing exposure, and take reasonable steps to ensure the health and safety at Twycross. The Health and Safety Executive states that a Health and Safety at Work Act inspection is required to ensure that hazards have been identified and risks controlled. Health and safety signs are displayed at Twycross, and together these measures minimise injury to both public and keepers. Double barriers keep the public a distance from enclosures, and low branch removal prevents children climbing trees. Signs at Twycross state the risks and dangers of climbing on enclosures.
Twycross have first aid trained staff on site at all times. The main first aid point is at the Guest Service Centre. Any information is quickly received there and appropriate action is taken. A member of staff at Twycross stated all incidents and near misses are recorded in a logbook and dealt with accordingly, depending on their severity, and that the reporting of injuries, diseases and dangerous occurrences regulations (RIDDOR) is used for any serious incident. Keeper training is essential for correct practice. SSS-MZP state that zoo operators must keep a list of staff and which species or individuals they are authorised to work with, along with their qualifications and levels of expertise. At Twycross, a senior member of staff is present at all times and sufficient keeper training is carried out. Keeper knowledge allows good stockmanship and better keeper-animal bond. Russian and Brazil 2010 and Ward and Melfi 2015 state that in captivity, when stockmanship levels are good, animals will be less stressed and show less abnormal behaviours, improving their welfare. SSS-MZP state the condition, health and behaviour of all animals should be checked at least twice a day. Daily meetings are held at Twycross, as asked in the Zoo Experts Committee handbook, where staff discuss care of the animals, daily tasks and any issues that have been noticed.
Twycross ensure keepers have a sufficient level of fitness and are up to date with all relevant vaccination. As stated by BIASA 2011, the Animal Health Act 2002 includes a requirement to control the risks to human health from zoonosis, as well as controlling the spread of disease among animals themselves. Twycross stated all staff are required to have the flu jab funded by the zoo to prevent illness and potentially infecting animals. Twycross has a resident vet and takes the approach to vaccinate the animals and prevent them being ill, rather than vaccinate all staff against zoonotic diseases. If diseases get into the zoo, they can pass on to humans and there is risk of infecting the visiting public. Lejeune and Davis 2004 stated there should be measures in place to minimise risk of transmission, including having adequate hand-washing facilities available. Prevention of disease is key to ensuring that the animals remain healthy, and as discussed in the 2014 annual review, at Twycross they prevent diseases using different techniques, including vaccination, worming and health checks for young animals, as well as continuous monitoring of the old animals. These procedures help to satisfy the 5 freedoms and therefore ensure that animal welfare is maintained to a maximum standard at Twycross.
Hughes and Fowler 2001 state that pests can easily pass on diseases to other animals. These diseases could cause the captive animals to become severely ill. A member of staff at Twycross stated that preventative measures such as regular tracking systems are in place. However, if the pest level gets too high, an exterminator will be called in and Twycross used when to kill. Contact with animals is kept to a minimum to protect all. SSS-MZP states suitable signs should be in place to alert public that animals are not to be touched, and even in contact exhibits, the public need to be made aware of the risks of wild animals. It states that gates and doors to animal enclosures where the public are admitted, and any barriers must be designed and maintained so as not to trap or otherwise injure a visitor or animal.
Twycross have public viewing areas, and the animals are kept at a safe distance using other barriers such as moats or rocks. Keepers at Twycross will rarely have direct contact with animals, but if contact is necessary, Twycross often use protected contact barriers such as in the elephant house. Some animals have been trained to stand on scales for medical checks, as stated in the 2014 annual review for Twycross Zoo. This allows improved veterinary care in accordance with the Animal Welfare Act 2006. Overall, at Twycross Zoo, health and safety is regulated very efficiently. However, a few areas that could be potential hazards were identified. Some areas require new markings to highlight that they are trip hazards, and some signs were broken or covered by foliage so may not be seen by visitors. There were also areas that could have been slip hazards, yet were not marked clearly to the public. and these could potentially cause harm to any visitors or staff. As long as these are corrected in accordance with the Health and Safety at Work Act, then Twycross Zoo can pass this area of the inspection.
Zoo security is important for human and animals. CCTV is a useful method for improving security as it can monitor areas 24/7 and areas that staff may not be able to get to. Constant monitoring increases animal safety and better welfare. Close encounter exhibits had staff monitoring, but also CCTV in places to prevent theft of small animals. It can also be used to maintain keeper and public safety. SSSMZP states zoos must have a system in place to minimise the risk of theft or damage by intruders entering the grounds out of hours, and that the perimeter boundaries should be designed and maintained to discourage unauthorised entry. Twycross ensure that no out-of-hours unauthorised access occurs. This minimises risk of harm both to the animals and humans. Twycross has a duty of care to the public whilst they are on the zoo property during opening times. Therefore, during busy periods, Twycross employs security staff, ensuring that all risks of harm to the public and animals are minimised and any suspicious activity can be reported.
Keepers carry radios, aiding with rapid communication, and can be useful in the event of an emergency. SSS MZP states zoo operators must ensure that all members of staff are familiar with emergency procedures, as well as knowing the radio codes for each eventuality. Emergency drills must be carried out at least 4 times a year, recorded and regularly reviewed. This increases security and health and safety for all by ensuring that any issues and emergencies are dealt with quickly and appropriately, reducing risk. All animals should be kept in enclosures constructed to avoid escape, according to SSS MZP. Gates and doors to enclosures must be securely locked. Twycross have a double door system in place to prevent escape from the secure area should one door be breached. During the inspection, enclosures were checked to ensure that a padlock was fitted and fastened to prevent unauthorised access. The avian section of the zoo had increased security for the animals, including a net covering the tops of the enclosures and electric fencing around the exterior, which is always kept on to prevent pests from gaining access to the enclosures.
In the event of an animal escape, the perimeter fence would confine the animal, allowing the situation to be resolved in a less problematic way. Trees must not aid animal escape. Some waterfowl species lie beside part of the perimeter fence. This area is quite overgrown. If an animal escaped near this section, foliage could assist escape. This should be dealt with immediately. Animals that can climb, jump, dig or burrow must be kept in enclosures so constructed as to avoid escape. The fences are maintained and visually checked for damage regularly. They are built under the ground to prevent pests from travelling into or captive animals out of the premises. The minimum recommended height or depth of barriers is stated in the International Industry Standards section of IASA.
Kleiman et al. 2010 explained that when emergencies occur, the priorities apply as follows: ensure public safety, ensure safety of the zoo and affiliated personnel, ensure safety of the animal collection, and prevent or minimise damage to facilities and equipment. The animal escape protocol at Twycross shows procedures are clear and all staff are trained and understand the drills. Twycross will notify the relevant groups if a category 1 or 2 animal escapes, including the front of house team who ensure public safety, the firearms team, the recapture team and the PR team, and a member of each team is always present at the zoo. In the event of a category 3 animal escape, care and caution must be taken by all, as these animals can still be dangerous when threatened. At Twycross Zoo, security is very effective. It's clear that Twycross takes security very seriously and are correctly preparing for emergencies. However, a few things could be improved. The zoo could have permanent security staff on the gate, and in general, more staff should be around the zoo, as this would provide more trained people to look out for anything suspicious, as well as walking around the zoo, it proved very difficult to find staff to talk to. Another method for maintaining security would be that keepers are not allowed to take zoo keys off premises to prevent incidents such as burglary or muggings for criminals to gain access to animals.
Educating in zoos has been a legal requirement since 1999 under the SSS MZP and the EU Zoo Directive. Every zoo licensed premises must provide educational information to visitors about the animals that the zoo contains. Twycross understand the importance for this requirement. In 2013, the Educational Department won Best Education Project by the IASA. The educational team leader at Twycross, Lee Johnson, stated that on average over 500,000 visitors visit Twycross annually, many of which are schools or educational trips. Falk et al. 2007 conducted a study assessing the impact that a visit to the zoo has and explained that visiting accredited zoos has a positive impact on visitor learning and enhancing public understanding of wildlife and the preservation of their habitat. This shows the importance of using the opportunity to educate the large audience in
Twycross offers a large variety of educational and discovery opportunities for all ages and abilities, and this can be seen on their website. They offer experiences for community groups and provide junior clubs such as Zoo Explorers. Twycross educational team offer presentations and guided visits to teach specific and more in-depth knowledge. Outreach is offered by Twycross, which is requested in the Zoo Expert Committee Handbook, where a discovery team visits different groups if they can't make it to the zoo. In 2013, Twycross expanded their zoo education programme by developing the community group sessions for groups such as guiding. Biaza revealed a pilot test was carried out at Twycross for this, to assess whether the guides had enjoyed their visit and whether the aims of the programme had been met. The evaluation showed that all aims had been met and that 95% of participants had gone on to display increased pro-wildlife behaviours months after participating. This information not only shows that they amended the gap in the educational market, but also that Twycross are meeting the SSSMZP standard of keeping records of their educational activities and evaluating the effectiveness.
The Zoo Licensing Act 1981 explains zoos need to promote public education and awareness in relation to the conservation of biodiversity. SSSMZP state accurate information about the species exhibited must be available, including species name, both scientific and common, natural habitat and some biological characteristics and their conservation status. Free choice learning occurs at Twycross using these educational signs, but also by videos or interactive activities next to the exhibits. These signs have all expected of them and also pictures and fun facts to make them appeal to the younger audience. Wildlife also state that free choice learning is often enhanced by close encounter exhibits like those offered at Twycross Zoo in places such as the Explorer section. Hosey et al. 2009 described formal learning as a more structured form of education. At Twycross, they provide formal learning. Animal feeding talks and presentations throughout the day are given to encourage visitors to engage. Purdy et al. 2012 explained that incorporating a video or live presentation at exhibits increased visitor time at the exhibit, as well as the amount of factual information they remembered, compared to just having signs to read. Therefore, Twycross could further improve visitor learning and engagement by placing a presenter, a video, or interactive educational device at each exhibit throughout the park.
Twycross are members of WASA, IASA and BIASA, which all promote sustainability and conservation of the natural world and the highest standards of environmental education, training and research. Twycross are also members of international conservation organisations including IUCN, SSC and Flora and Fauna International, where Twycross successfully fund patrollers to monitor the Vietnamese forests. Twycross being accepted as members by these organisations show that the zoo provides high standards of welfare, conservation and education. It's vital for zoos to ensure that all staff have a correct understanding about conservation and creating a sustainable future so they are able to educate visitors. WASA 2005 states that the aim of conservation education is to interpret living collections to attract, inspire and enable people to act positively for conservation. The education team used the opportunity to improve public engagement, generate love and respect for the animals which they look after, and inspire conservation efforts in the wider community, as asked by BIASA.
Suitable facilities should be available for educational purposes. Twycross have large educational classrooms on site with interactive boards which coincide with the SSSMZP standard. The Twycross 2014 annual review showed that 3 new interactive classrooms have been developed for educational purposes, and throughout 2014 there were high attendance for the formal teaching programmes. Building a Future for Wildlife is a manual by WASA with detailed procedures and examples of good zoo practice. It states networking should occur in each zoo. External conferences for generalist and specialist subjects are held at Twycross. They are members of ABWAC, an international networking organisations. Twycross network internally through newsletters, zoo email and training courses as recommended in the Zoo Experts Committee Handbook. Keeping members of staff up to date and helping to ensure if a mistake is made is discussed between the relevant staff so that there is minimal risk of the mistake happening again.
Building a Future for Wildlife states that zoo staff must be trained and qualified for their role. And as explained by the educational team leader, no mandatory qualifications are needed to become a keeper. However, staff need to be either experienced or have a relevant qualification meaning they're suitable for the role. The zoo also offers a course in zoo animal management to provide a baseline standard for staff ability in accordance with the Animal Welfare Act 2006. All staff at Twycross are DBS checked to ensure public safety. Volunteers, however, are not currently DBS checked, and this could be a recommendation for the zoo to further ensure the safety of their visitors.
The pre-inspection audit expects a mission statement and development plan. Twycross do not currently have an official mission statement since the change of management. However, they do have a set of aims, which include to support research for animals, to improve welfare, improve healthcare, and promote conservation in situ and ex situ. The mission statement needs to be created and developed with a more direct educational role present in order for Twycross Zoo to pass on the educational section of the inspection. The 2-year development plan currently in place are the 2-year actual plan and the 2034 vision, which is their 20-year development plan. In order for that to be beneficial, the zoo spokesperson explained they will need to double their annual visitor numbers. Overall, the areas highlighted will need to be addressed, but as a whole, Twycross meet requirements and are considered an accredited zoo.